Welcome to another episode of Net Talk. I'm Mitch.
I'm Alex.
Yeah, let's just get right into it. What's your slide and shame for? We didn't do it last week because we forgot because we're stupid. But like,
Boring week.
Was it a boring week?
I don't know. There wasn't.
I don't even remember what I did last week. Genuinely,
Nah. Short-term memory. It's what happens today, and that's it.
Yeah. All right. Slay and shame for the week. Last week. Or weekend, whatever.
I've only got two shames for this
You
week.
can't be so negative.
I'm a very negative person.
No, you're not. Anyone that knows you knows that you're positively goofy. So
My first shame is fantasy basketball's back
how's that a shame?
because I absolutely stuffed up my draft.
Oh, I did hear about this.
My draft was woeful. So it's an auction league.
But it was your own fault though.
This is why I love fantasy so much. Yes, it was my fault because there's different variations of it. This is auction league. You get a $200 budget to fill out a team of 14 of NBA players or 13 NBA players. And I messed it up. I was really happy with how my draft was going 4 players through. It's typical, like it goes most expensive players first.
Yeah.
Most expensive player was like $70. Then it drops pretty quick to like 50.
Yeah.
Pretty steep again. And then there's a bunch of cheap players.
Yeah.
So usually I really try and plan it that I get 1 or 2 expensive players, and then I wait ages and I'll get a bunch of medium promising players that could grow this season.
Yeah.
And me and my brother were bidding on this same guy. I was bidding him up a little bit because it was probably one of the last pretty good players.
Yeah.
I was bidding him up a little bit, seeing if I could get him up. And I was like, I really want this guy too. So if I get him, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And then I bid him up. He bid me up and I went, that's probably my limit. He's too expensive. I'll go one more just to see. And then
So you were like, oh, I'm out of budget. I'm going to go one more.
Well, I thought, I was like, he'll go. And I did want to take some money from him. But he just took some money from me. And then I had no money left for ages. And I was like,
Silly.
So I miscalculated how many players I had left with my money and was like, all right, I'll be okay. And then I just had a bunch of $1 or $2 players because I'm just waiting till everyone else has run out of money and then I get the scraps.
Yeah.
And I've lost round 1.
Well, I'm no surprise. Your team's
maybe it'll come back. It'll be okay.
unlikely.
You got a slay or a shame?
Yeah, I got both. But like you do your other shame.
Oh, my other shame is preparing. For this episode, we're talking all about fantasy volleyball because it's popped up everywhere. I'm shaming fantasy volleyball too. No, I'm just shaming.
Why are you shaming fantasy?
I'm just shaming every league having different
stats.
formatting for their stats. Some leagues not even having stats available. I'm just working on a little side thing just to try and see how players' regular club seasons, because CEV, the Champions League, is like the best clubs from the European leagues.
Like battle it out.
Yeah. So the top teams go and compete this too. Similar to soccer. I think soccer has a similar thing in their Champions League as well.
Yeah.
But so I'm like, all these leagues are at different stages. Sure. But what's this league that's 6 games through? How's that team shaping up?
Yeah.
Sweet. I can see this guy averages 20 attacks a game.
And then you can
Then I go to another league and I go, there's no stats for the Turkish league that I can get access to.
We've talked about this a number of times, but like there's a Turkish YouTube channel. I think it's like TRV or TRK or something. It's like similar to like an SBS kind of thing. And you can watch the Turkish Volleyball League on there. Not every game, like random games.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's other sports on there. So it's like annoying to subscribe to them because then your feed just gets flogged with random Turkish sports that I just don't really care about. But I want the volleyball. But but like I can't really find any Turkish. I can find the website, but like other than that, I can't find anything.
Well, I just really want to track the players in their clubs because a real benefit of Champions League volleyball is that it's just players still in their club.
Yeah.
So you know how stuff's going to shape up because it's how they already do in the regular season versus when players go into a national team, they've got a different setup. They've got different players next to them. So maybe there's a lot more changes in that.
Yeah.
Versus the only difference is that they're playing a better competition.
Yeah. So it's tracks a bit more. Yeah. So you're shaming yourself and all of fantasy volleyball.
Yeah.
Or all the volleyball, actually.
But also slay that fantasy volleyball's everywhere now.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about this episode. All right. My slay is to myself for not getting injured on the weekend. I haven't trained in many moons.
It's a slay.
I'm very unfit. Oh,
slay.
not helpful. And yeah, so that's a slate. And I played 4, 3, 7 games of volleyball on the weekend in 2 days at Bendigo.
Dragon City?
Dragon City. I don't know why it's called Dragon City. Do you know why it's called Dragon City? Because there's no dragons in Bendigo, so I don't really. Is that the Bendigo Association's mascot?
Bendigo Dragons.
Is that the thing?
That's a different sports thing, I think.
Bit like, you know how it's like there's
rings a bell.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's called Dragon City. We played it. We didn't do particularly well because there was only 4 teams in honours. So we played everyone twice and they were timed. And so this is my slay, me not getting injured, my shame, Bendigo, whoever did it's actually not that bad. Like I understand. It's timed volleyball. I just hate timed volleyball. So a shame to whoever invented timed volleyball because we played Sunraysia, so like a good, like they were pretty much a Premier 1 team. We had a few Premier 1 players. We had a few guys who hadn't played in a long time, a few guys who don't play. We did pretty well. It was a very good match, and it maybe should have been the final. Maybe should have. I mean, we lost a few games. Maybe we shouldn't have lost. But like it's volleyball.
Happens.
Yeah, it happens. And anyways. So timed volleyball is just the worst because we were in the 3rd set. These are just best of 3 games because you're playing like 7 games in 2 days. So there's shorter games. And it was 9-8 to them or to us. I don't remember. Anyways, timer goes off and we were like, we're in the 3rd. There's like 5-6 points left. Like, can we just play it out? And the referee was like, nah, that's it, time. And I was like, fair enough. That's the rules. So they were like, all right, we got to do count back. And then because like the 3rd set didn't count because we didn't get above 13 or whatever, which is weird because it goes to 15 anyways. And on count back, both teams were at exactly 60 points. So we lost because we were like 3rd. And if we'd won one more point that match, we would have gotten 2nd and then played the final because only top 2 play the final. But I did say to a few of the teammates that probably good that we didn't because I don't think I would have been able to play. I was pretty gassed by the time that game rolled around.
Maybe I'm slowly revealing too much about my high school volleyball experience because I also played Dragon City as a junior.
Yeah.
With my high school team, the same team where me and one other player played better when there was only 2 of us on the court versus a full team.
Yeah.
We played Dragon City, the junior division or something, I remember.
Yeah.
And we didn't win a single game in the pool play or whatever.
Yeah.
Qualified for finals because another team withdrew and left. Because I think there was 5 teams.
Like the top
4 go through to whatever, and a team withdrew, so they pulled us up, having not won a game.
Did you then go and win?
And we won from there because I remember we won the semi because of the time running out. We won on points.
That's disgusting.
But it's such a good format. I love timed games.
Shut up.
They're so much fun.
That's so great. Like. Luckily, the last few years at Warrnambool, we haven't been stitched up by time because Warrnambool's timed as well.
Yeah,
isn't it?
in the regular, hour games.
Pool plays. Yeah, I feel like a couple of years ago we got absolutely stitched up with some times shenanigans. I can't remember exactly how it played out, but anyways, time volleyball. Let's move away from that. I think it's not a thing. Anyways, we're talking about your favorite topic and my second favorite topic.
What's your favorite topic?
Actual volleyball.
Nah, real volleyball stinks. Fantasy
volleyball is where it is. Yeah. I could be convinced.
Some dream teams.
Yeah.
Because it's really interesting. Everyone, hopefully at home, is seeing
all the
fantasy leagues pop up. So Fantasy VNL was the first time I'd seen it in a volleyball setting last year.
Let's talk about that first.
Yeah.
So last year, before the this year. I keep thinking that it's 2025 already because our season's over.
Yeah.
Like our volleyball. But
so we're moving on to next year, but it was earlier this year.
This year, before the Olympics, VNL Fantasy. It was a thing. We played it. We had a few mates that played it. We had a private league and there was the global league. How'd you find it?
Loved it. Lots of issues.
Lots of issues.
Seeing it from probably the first time someone's really, like, I'm sure they did so much planning on the back end.
Well, I looked at the company. They're like Fanta. Yeah. Fanta Interactive is the company.
Yeah.
They do fantasy sports, other sports as well. Like there's football and stuff. And
it's a drink too. Fanta. Sorry.
I hate it here.
But coming from other fantasy sports, it was so funny seeing like just a couple things that are slightly different. And I've always thought about fantasy volleyball being option or something that can happen. But there's just certain things in the game of volleyball that don't lend themselves to fantasy, and some things that do. So it was really interesting. You got credits essentially,
which was like that was the currency.
Default. There was 2 versions in this fantasy VNL. The default was currency. You had 100 credits or something to pick a team.
150
maybe to pick your team.
Yeah,
and different players were rated differently. The ratings, first off, were bonkers.
Ridiculous.
It was like a backup opposite on France was the most expensive player. And it's like, why?
Yeah. And
versus the Turkish players were all
cheap
free.
And then like Stephen Ma was 7 credits and he was outstanding.
And their middle as well.
Finn McCarthy.
Yeah, McCarthy.
To be fair,
he's
like,
growing out of college.
You wouldn't have picked Finn McCarthy to be a dominant middle unless you had followed him closely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that didn't work.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that though because you could pick a Turkish pass hitter. Yes, they're not winning games, but Menderici's hitting 30 balls, so
you
it'd
could
be all right.
Cheese it a little bit, yeah.
And then we also had a lot of fun in a more standard fantasy experience to me,
the private
draft league, where everyone went down a list and picked their players from. We had a league of 12. Might have been too many players for that.
Definitely too many.
Yeah.
But we'll get to why. But
but that had unique players. So if you picked Namir, I was after you in the picking line. I could no longer pick Namir.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, and I really like that as a format.
I liked that one more, but I also liked it less for different reasons. Like it was fun because you're with your mates, but then when it came time for finals and stuff like that, it was just unplayable
because it was a matchup based thing each week or each game day.
Yeah,
you would match up against someone else. But by the time we got to finals, I had 2 players on my team. Like I think I ended up coming second in that private league.
Yeah.
And I was playing the person that finished first in the last week, and I had 2 players playing.
Yeah, and
because he had like 4 or something because he just
didn't he only have one, but it happened to be the opposite, and they just outscored
maybe did he have the French
had,
opposite?
Yeah, I reckon he did.
Yeah.
But all right, so take us down the list of the VNL fantasy. Like, what didn't work?
I think
match days we talked about. Like it was every match day. That didn't work at all.
Yeah, every match day because it was just really interesting. Like there was just funny jumblings of some teams played back to backs or sooner, and not all their games counted.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing, which is a complication of the real sport, was none of like the Polish players played the first week.
That was probably because of the Olympics, though.
Because of the schedule. Teams are putting more favour into the Olympics than they are VNL. VNL was shortened, more cramped. But then the match days were a bit complicated because it was just like, my player played this game, but he didn't play this game.
Before you continue, excuse me, probably should explain how it worked. But like, if you don't know fantasy, basically you pick a bunch of players on your fantasy team. They obviously don't have to play for the same club or nationality, whatever, and they earn points in their regular matches that earn them fantasy points. That fantasy points gets all added together, and that's your team's total, and that puts you in a ranking. Now, the issue with that, as Alex was saying, was with the match days, I personally thought that was a terrible idea because, as you said, some games didn't count, and it was very hard to tell which games counted, which games didn't count. For example, if this actually happened. I don't remember which 2 teams, but it actually happened where because it was the Olympics, you knew that if top dog teams played not so good teams, they were going to rest their starters. But if they played other top dog teams, they were going to play their whole team, right? So before a match day, you could manipulate your lineup. So you had 12 players, obviously 6 on the court, 6 on the bench, and a lib. The bench players earned half of their points, and the players on the starting, they obviously earned all their points. It was almost impossible to guess starting lineups because of the Olympics, but that's not really VNL's fault. The issue with it was that if you correctly predicted who was going to start and then you looked at the match day and that game fell outside the match day, so like Poland and USA, right? Like I know I had TJ DeFalco, I had Slivka, I had oh my God, I had Janusz, the Polish setter.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I'm going to earn so much points here. And it fell outside match day.
Yeah.
So I just didn't get any points for that.
Because it's so funny to see, what was I going to say? Like, you could only make your lineup of the players you picked locked every night or before games started.
Yeah.
In the more general fantasy points, non-unique players with like the public, you could only swap out 5 players, I think it was, a day. Was it 5?
5 transfers,
Yeah.
and then you had unlimited like in between.
In between weeks.
Yeah.
Which was interesting to see.
It just meant you could change your entire row. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I liked it. It was fun, even though it had its quirks. Like looking back at it, we sort of talked about it. We're like, if you're listening to this and you're going to go and do private leagues with your mates, probably do 8. Because if you think there were 16 teams in VNL, so it kind of meant that
I was doing the math and was like, oh, it'll work out because everyone gets
starters. Yeah.
And then I was like, and you have to play a little bit more with benches.
Yeah.
And or if injuries occurred.
Yeah.
But really it just meant like no one was really dropping or adding players because you couldn't pick up someone.
Yeah. It meant that there were no starting players outside of picks that were up for grabs. So that we did no transfers. The only transfers we did were when rosters came out. For example, like Poland's roster for the first 3 weeks of VNL, none of their starters went.
Yeah.
So we were all making transfers for like the names that we've never heard of for Poland that went for the first like 3 weeks of VNL. Like stuff like that. The other thing about, so like overall, VNL Fantasy, it was good fun.
Yeah, good to grade players on a different spectrum.
Yeah.
Because you get, like it's interesting to see setters be actually graded nicely. The starting setters were graded relatively okay because they got points based on their team's offense.
But that also had some quirks as well because they're like, when you're grading setters, it's tough because like it's a bit like the overall top ranked point scorer setter for like fantasy points scoring setter for that league was Simeon Nikolov.
Yeah, like always. Yeah.
And when you're talking about the best setters in the world, he is not being like, he's 17 years old. He's not the best setter in the world, right? So you're talking about like a Brazar, or you're talking about like, or the other French setter, Tony Uti, or you're talking about Janusz or Christensen, but they did not score well.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
I guess just because their hitters hit less balls and I don't know, just because they win more points easily.
So that was another big thing with the scoring system. I guess it's new and I guess it's hard because it's never been done before.
And that's what we'll look at in the next leagues that are coming out. There's a bit of change to those scoring systems. So there was a nice matrix for the VNL Fantasy that was like, if you set at least 8 balls, you're probably the first setter. You get graded on this scale. If you pass 3 balls, you get your rating times by 4 for your reception or whatever it all was.
Well, we think that was to stop bench players coming on, passing 1 ball and having 100% efficiency and then getting 1 million points on fantasy. Like, which is probably why.
Yeah.
But like, having spoken about all that, there are 2 fantasy leagues that are currently out that surprised us out of the blue. Whoever's doing the marketing for these, please do a little bit better. Let us know more than 11 days out from the start of the league. Also, the Lega Volley Femminile, the women's Italian league, they have a fantasy league. I did not see a single piece of marketing for this until round 3.
Even the VNL Fantasy
had no marketing.
And then it was like VNL Fantasy. So we scrapped together our players.
In like a week.
I organised the draft and put all the players.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have an onboard drafting system. Like you had to do it like offline.
You did the spreadsheet by
we
yourself.
did a spreadsheet.
Yeah, which is good.
But then CEV as well is the new league. CEV, the Champions League.
Yeah, so CEV is the federation.
Yeah.
But the Champions League, for those who don't know, because we haven't explained it, and for a podcast that is trying to teach Australian volleyballers about international volleyball, we're not doing a very good job. But Champions League works very similarly to the Champions League for football. So the top It depends. There's not a lot of just readable information about it, but essentially this is my interpretation of how it works. And you correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, but top 3 teams from each major volleyball competition, like domestic volleyball competition, gets entered into the Champions League. So, or maybe even to the top 2 from some. It's the top 2 from some.
It gets to 20 total teams.
Yeah. So you're talking like the top 3 from the Polish league, top 3 from the Italian league, top 3 from the French league, and the
Belgian,
Bundesliga, and the Germany league
and Turkish.
Yeah, and then from what we're reading, there's a few domestic leagues like the Turkish league, the Greek league, and some other leagues that have to play for a spot in the Champions League. So the CEV Champions League, it's very difficult to schedule because it runs alongside each club season. So it works in legs. There's like these weeks where the clubs don't really, all those clubs don't play. They're not scheduled to play in their local leagues, and then they play the Champions League. So you get Italian teams that play the Polish teams. You get Polish teams play Turkish, all that sort of stuff. It's very good, but there's fantasy for it, and we're doing it because it's going to be fun. So after taking in all the feedback from VNL Fantasy, like how is CEV different?
Well, there's no private leagues.
That's annoying.
With unique rosters, which
Big
is
negative.
a little frustrating. But I guess they might have thought no one's running their own offline drafts.
I would like to have seen the stat, like from everyone that I've spoken to about it. Like, and you know, there's not many people in Australia that are doing fantasy volleyball, which is why we're doing it, because it's fun and we like it and we feel like it's interesting for people. I would love to see how many people did their own, even in Europe. Like how many people did their own draft league?
I assume so many people just did the default of I'll just go on the global leaderboard and see where I finish.
It was like 50,000 people participated, which is a lot if you think about it. Like, so I don't know. I reckon there'd be like less than 100 draft leagues. So maybe that's why they were like, let's not bother.
But a great change for this is how the lineups work.
So much better.
You get your 7 starters or your 6 and your libero.
Yeah.
And then you have 5 reserve bench players. You only get points for your starters.
Which might sound bad initially until you realize that if they don't start, if one of your bench players does, they get put in.
Yeah. So rather than your bench contributing to your total score, they only sub in if one of your starters don't play, which is better.
It's far better.
It just means that you're not penalised for a random player not playing a game.
You're not penalised for guessing wrong, because my God, we penalised left, right and centre in the VNL for guessing wrong. Yes, it was because it was before an Olympic games. Yeah. But still, it was just, that was the only thing that just kind of made it not that fun. It was just like, you look at your lineup and you go, oh, I've done really well here. Yeah. Like I'm in budget. I've got the best players I could get. And then you watch, we sit down on that couch and go, all right, VNL's on. You look at the sale lives, you go, whoops, what is going on here? We
had our own group chat a couple of times. I think we sent in how's our team looking? This looks pretty all right. And then as soon as the game started, goes, oh, he's not playing.
Yeah, just raging in the group chat.
Yeah, so
regularly.
Rather than just getting a 0 in that spot, you get whatever your bench players score would have been. So it evens the playing field across every team.
Yeah, but then you are penalised if your bench players don't play as well. Yeah. So I guess that's a bit more strategic in terms of like who you end up buying.
Maybe you pick a player off a worse team.
That's what we're thinking, right?
Start.
Like we're thinking you got to like maybe some of the teams in Champions League, like, because, you know, there are some French teams and some Greek teams that are not like, they're not going to go and win Champions League, but they're going to play, and they're probably going to play their starters every game. So you can probably, and they're going to be a lot cheaper.
And there's a restriction on you're only allowed 3 players from each club.
Yeah.
Until finals.
Yeah.
We were allowed more, which VNL Fantasy restricted you to
nationality.
Yeah, nationality for 3 players from each nationality, I think.
Yeah. That was
even in finals,
which was a nightmare.
You're in the final and there's only 2 teams playing. Who are you going to put?
Yeah, it just did not work at all. It was not thought. I mean, like, you know, as I said, first time they did it, but it wasn't thought through in that aspect. But this is good. So the doors open the closer you are into finals.
Yeah.
So it's like when finals happens, your entire starting six can be from one club.
Yeah.
Which is very likely what I will do if I think I know who's going to win.
But something that will toss up everything in my brain is the valuation of players is very different.
Wait, before you get to
VNL.
that,
All right.
I want to touch one more thing. We said in the VNL, players were valued terribly. They are also valued terribly in the CEV.
Yeah.
Why is Herrera one of the most expensive
in terms of
opposites?
their dollar value,
Yeah, but he's the second opposite in his team.
Yeah.
Wasim Bentara is
I mean, you can look
better.
at the club season that they've had.
He's played like one game.
He's played 6 sets,
Yeah.
I think. So he's played across 2 games, but then the other opposite has played 21, whatever. So it's just...
why was he valued like that?
Yeah, but that's a good sneak. Get the other opposite on their team that will actually play.
Oh, I've just given it away. So everyone's going to go and get fucking
Yeah, don't waste $15 on Herrera. Maybe it is
$15 million.
Yeah, sorry, 15 mil. Yeah.
So don't get sucked in for the expensive plays. Do your research. If you can do your research, do your research. Like that's, you're not going to,
Because the point valuation is different too. There's no reward in this league, in the Champions League Fantasy, for efficiency or accuracy. Your passing is not graded. It is just sheer volume.
Which I
don't mind, but there should be a little bit of a modifier or bonus.
There should be a bonus for good passing.
Because we looked at in VNL.
Well, explain it. Explain the points first.
So, I mean, there's lots of different points for the different categories. Serving an ace gets you 5 points. Error gets you -1. A serve that continues play gets you 1. Good for serving.
If you serve in, you get 1. If you serve out you get -1. If you serve an ace, you get 5 points. Yeah, that's pretty fair.
Blocking, 5 points for a block, -1 for an error or for a loss of point.
So
I want to see what
touch?
that actually means.
That better be net touch.
It better only be net touch.
Because I think we figured out that negative blocking in the VNL Fantasy was actually if you got tooled. Yeah.
But it's like, it's so hard to have control over when you get tooled.
People get tooled all the time now too.
But it says loss of point on, it says block
Surely
loss
that's
of point.
net touch.
Surely it's net touch or like maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
No, it would have to be net touch.
And then the two that are just like volume is just you get 1 point per reception.
Yeah.
And -1 for reception error. So that really shifts. Libros won't get points because who serves the lib?
And who serves
Best pass hitters won't get the points.
Yeah, who serves the good pass hitter?
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's a lie because when you're looking at like a Wilfredo Leon,
you take him out of the attack by,
or like a Gabby, teams will serve them relentlessly to try and just throw their volume up. But we looked at Yuki Ishikawa and Oleg Plotnitsky.
Yeah.
You're looking at those two, you're probably not serving Ishikawa because he's a really good passer. Not that Plotnitsky is not a good passer, but he's probably the weaker.
Yeah.
So we saw Plotnitsky get way more ball, which meant he got way more point, even if he didn't pass well.
Yeah, because at that level, he's not making more passing errors.
No, but he's still passing.
In relation to the more passing volume. You're with the increased volume, you do get increased errors, but it's in a ratio that is consistent. You're getting more benefit out of someone that passes more.
Yeah.
Same as attacking is just like a volume thing. Getting a kill wins you 3 points. Hitting an error gets you -1.
Isn't there one for hitting in play? Like hitting a ball, there isn't?
Nah, there's no just play. It's just win or error.
Yeah.
Which is...
But if you know players aren't going to make errors, but they're going to get a ton of volume, pick them.
Yeah,
because,
find someone
especially if they're
that
cheap.
wins.
Like, yeah.
And then an interesting like category that's just like bonuses. 8 or more positive actions gets you 5 points. 6 or more negative actions gets you -3. Although from what I was looking at, like who's making 6 or more negative actions? Really, it's not.
Well, I remember there was that Netherlands middle.
Yeah, that was my bad that I drafted him. I was negatives. Like, starting middle.
It's terrible.
And then in starting 6 plus 3 points. And I think another little contribution that they're trying to equal it out is setter position receives 2 times multiplier on positive action. Because I think setters only get 2 ways to influence, serve and block. And there's not a whole lot of good blocking centers.
I actually think... I don't know. I
said centers.
Yeah. I actually I don't like that. I don't like that for setters, and I don't like that for libros. I think, and I didn't like it for VNL Fantasy. For whatever reason, setters were never fairly scored because you had setters that were on teams that would dominate, which meant their kill efficiency was really high, which in theory means that setter must be pretty good for distributing the ball that well for hitters to go out and score. Your setter should get rewarded by being surrounded by good hitters. Like, yeah, you got to be a good setter. You need to be somewhat of a good setter, but you should still be rewarded if the distribution is good, like this, that, whatever. But for whatever reason, setters just never scored that high in VNL.
Yeah.
And libros were just such a waste of money.
Setters at least didn't have they had a high floor, but a low ceiling. They were just always in that high 20s, low 30 points.
Yeah.
Libros, mate, there were not many libros that got above like 10 points. It was like
even having like a Grubenikov would just meant nothing, or a Yamamoto.
But that was a thing in the private league. I might have let it slip to a couple people in our draft. I was like, draft a libro literally last, because no matter what, you're going to get a starting libro somewhere. But just wait.
Yeah, and then we said that though, and none of the starting libros end up coming for the first 3 weeks of VNL. But so I think setters should be graded on team efficiency. I think that should be the score should be pulled from that. I don't know, because if your player in the VNL Fantasy scored 30 to 40 points, they were very valuable. Anything under that was just average. Anything under 20 was bad, right? I don't know what these score benchmarks are going to be. It sounds like it'll be similar.
I think this is going to boost outsides.
Yeah.
Outsides.
No, I mean averages.
Oh, yeah.
I mean plays that are sitting around 50 points. That's going to be average by what the math we did on this.
But in the VNL Fantasy League, outsides got there was
20.
I remember I was like, outsides will get lots of ways because they can influence a game through passing, blocking, serving, attacking.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's 4 categories to get points in. So I remember I took Mickey Aletto early in our draft and he was getting 20 points a game.
He just wasn't.
I was like, what the hell? And then it was just but then some.
Yuki Ishikawa occasionally got 40 points.
I think the Slovenian pass hitters did pretty good as well, Chebulj, but that's just because
he was unreal.
Good. And then it really made it be opposites are.
They were the money
best
makers.
Because they have nowhere to go wrong.
Well, everyone just had Namir until finals.
Namir and
Stern.
Tončec Stern.
Yeah.
But this Champions League, I think now favours pass hitters a little bit more.
Because of the pass.
Because just you get 1 point for passing.
Yeah. But I still think, that was what I was going with before as well. The points are going to be a lot higher. So but you got to find a way to evaluate setters and give them points that they're going to make them valuable.
Yeah.
Having a good setter actually means something as opposed to just, because there's no setting statistics. So there's if your setter could get 2 aces for the entire match and then they're going to get double because they're a setter. So it's cool. Now you're on 20 points. Whereas pass hitters are going to be averaging 40 to 60.
2 aces, so they'll be on 20 points.
Anyways.
They'll be on 10,
but then they'll pass the ball 20 times and be on 40.
Yeah.
Or 30. But so pass hitters are going to be your money makers. Libros, I don't think libros, because the libros aren't getting served. So how are they scoring points?
Yeah.
This is the other thing that I think, and we spoke about this obviously off air, but last week I think we spoke about this. Libros, if setters are going to be scored based on team efficiency on attack, which I think is fair, then maybe you multiply it. Maybe it's a 1.5 multiplier. So say the team attacks at a 45%, which is good. Your team should win if you're around that benchmark, maybe a little bit higher, but then you're sitting around about where a decent pass hitter is, in terms of score. A libero should be based on defensive point winning. So you know how there's that stat at the bottom of the score sheet that's all right, the amount of times you scored or your percentage on efficiency
on dig.
That should be the libero's money maker. It will have to be multiplied by some value to make it in that. But right now, liberos are not going to score.
I mean, it's just because that is it's thinking about stuff that's already on stat sheets.
Yeah.
And that is something that's already there. Because
digs aren't statted
Yeah.
in like anything other than VNL. Digs are not statted on any score sheet we see. It's only the percentage of attack, percentage of kill after dig, which is a good stat. And even though the libero may not directly contribute to that, as in they may not have got the dig, I still think they are the defensive specialist.
It's
That's
almost
their job. Like
other fantasy sports, NFL fantasy, we spoke about this off air.
Yeah.
NFL fantasy, you pick your team and then you actually, you only pick your offensive players, I believe. And then you pick a defensive system.
Yeah.
You pick San Francisco's defense or the team's defense. So a libero could almost be I pick Warszawa's defense. And you get attributed to that position, that team's defense.
That would be and we spoke about this as well, but like if anyone with any ideas or any ties to CEV Fantasy or anyone who's doing fantasy at a high level that is not just two guys in a living room talking about it, that would be a really good move for volleyball in fantasy. Like imagine being able to go, all right, who's the best serving team in the Italian men's comp? It's probably Perugia or Trentino. Piacenza sometimes. So it's like, all right, I'm going to pick them for serving. And it's like, all right, who's the best blocking team? And then it's like, all right, well, Perugia block Devils, but Trentino probably get way more blocks at the moment. So it's like, I'm going to pick Trentino. And then is that like how you mean? Like you would just go category by category? Or
I'd still pick individual players.
Oh, but you could
get
do
attributed
both.
players. Yeah, I guess you could do both.
Yeah.
It'd be a bit tougher to do both. I think it's just the defensive side or side out.
So do you mean
its
like
own thing?
So you mean like I'm picking players and then going, wait, so how would that work?
So like, you would pick 6. Basketball has a category league as well where you win categories. You still pick individual players that are good in certain categories.
Oh, and you're just going all in on certain categories.
Yeah, and then it would add up. So I would pick Ishikawa and someone else just to like get my passing up.
Yeah.
Even though we just spoke about him not passing that much. And then I would pick someone else to work on the blocking. And then rather than picking the teams, but just for the defensive stat that you can't attribute to a single player, attribute it to the libero because they are in charge of that.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. All these ideas are just like, the more we think about it, the more there's a lot of different ways fantasy volleyball could evolve and adapt. Like, it is very, very new, but there's so many different ways you could take it because like, you could take it teams only. Like you could just have 8 categories and just go, or 9 categories and just go, all right, we're going to do attacking, blocking, serving, defending, passing. And you're just going to take team by team by team or player by player by player. Like it could be really interesting. But CEV seems to have moved a lot in the right direction based off of the VNL Fantasy. Or at least we think so far.
Yeah.
Still very, very skeptical of the liberos and setters. Like I just don't see them scoring that much other than setters like Simeon Nikolov who are not playing Champions League, who will just turn about everything because if they get kills, they're going to get double points.
Yeah.
And if they get blocks or aces. So like I'm thinking like, who's the most aggressive server for a setter?
The setters out there.
Probably Micah Ma. Like that's playing in Champions League.
Yeah.
Gianelli, but like does he get that many aces?
The ones that were getting blocks. Who was the setter that was getting blocks?
Gianelli
gets blocks. So that's why he'd be all right there.
Micah Ma probably doesn't get blocks. Who's a massive setter? It's pretty much just Gianelli.
Yeah.
Who else is even? Yeah, that's probably another thing to investigate. Like who's actually in who's in Champions League?
Yeah, because there's so much variation. That's why I like looking at stats as well. Like some of these leagues don't have their current season stats available.
So that is hard. Yeah,
like the French Volleyball League, Chalmont specifically. I was looking at. I was trying to find their stats. Oh, I don't have it for this year. Oh, I could just use their last year's stats. That's a greater sample size. That'll be even better. Except there's so much turnover in the teams.
Transfers are just at that level of volleyball.
Yeah.
This is something else that's completely irrelevant, off topic, but quick little segment would be interesting just for our Australian viewers. Australia seems to have this weird fascination with the fact that movement between clubs is bad.
Yeah.
I just disagree with that. I think transfers is good. And I don't know. We have very, very strict transfer limits in Victoria and in Queensland. When I play, we had very, very strict. I don't really know why. There might be some reason that I'm just not thinking of, but I don't know. Like every team at that level just has a completely new roster every year, which is cool. It means that you have to be very franchise based as opposed to like we're going all in on these two players or. Anyways, random little off topic segment.
I mean, it's because I think Australia needs a club system that goes to a next level.
Well,
like a Champions League, because
we speak about this a lot.
Yeah, we spoke about it when we spoke about club champs.
Yeah, no, we did.
Because some state league clubs, just due to playing together for longer, having better systems, like
will do better
better than a team of disjointed people from different systems.
And this deserves its own episode. But while we're off topic and while we're here, like I don't disagree with AVL. Like I get why it exists, but I think if the infrastructure could be supported financially, because everyone that's not in Australia is going to understand that like when you're in Europe playing Champions League, if you're going from France to Poland, that's not a long trip. A couple hours on a plane. When you're going from Melbourne to WA, that is a 4-hour flight. And that doesn't sound like it's a long time.
Yeah.
But that's like your 2 states over.
Also hundreds of dollars.
And like $400 or $500. So not cheap. But if there could be some genuine funding or some creative funding ideas within clubs, also I think the onus should be on clubs to support themselves and get sponsors and do that whole thing. Anyways, AVL would be better if it was club-based. As in like top 2 from every domestic competition, like top 2 from State League this year, Renegades and Heidelberg. And then top 2 from Queensland, from memory, it was Bears and QT. From WA, it was Checkers and someone else, Stars.
Yeah.
So
you can vary it too, because based on how many teams are in a league, you can give 2 spots to WA, you could give 3 spots to Queensland.
Yeah, like you could. Yeah, exactly. Because the hardest thing about AVL, genuinely, having played it for a long time, you've played it for a long time, and other people played it for far longer than us. But like this year specifically, and last year specifically, because of the way that the scheduling is, you have to play State League and AVL very, very close together. Like we finished
your training.
Overlapping your training for the majority of the year. We finished State League, like the State League grand final for Victoria was like, I don't know when it was, can't remember the dates because my mind is exploding, but there was about a week difference between State League grand final and the first round of AVL. And it's like, that's so hard. Again, like I understand there's the scheduling issues and it's very difficult to do AVL and like as an organizer, I imagine. I don't know anyone who organizes it, but I am I'll die on the hill of that. I think it should be club based. Not that like Vipers isn't a club.
I mean,
but like it should be the domestic State League clubs that get entered into a Champions League-esque format and, be whatever.
It used to be closer to that.
It used to be licensed.
Yeah,
because it was just license based.
Like it,
But then again, you're still playing with people you don't play with.
Yeah.
And it just... It's probably not the only league in the world that does that. Like there's probably other leagues that do it. It's similar. But anyways, good little off topic.
I'm going off, throwing one thing out there to finish.
Yeah, go.
Because there's one fantasy system and or fun game that we haven't spoken about. Was the Japanese SV League. The Japanese SV League has a essentially FIFA Ultimate Pack team system. There's a little application or a website that you can get to on phones.
Is it on the App Store or no?
No. So it's on the website. It's on Chrome, but it gives you the prompts of on Chrome you can download an application to your homepage.
That'll only work on Android though, won't it?
Maybe Japan is big in the Android thing because that was their instruction too, was to press the 3 little buttons at the top and download
like
to screen.
SDK or whatever it is. Yeah.
But it is essentially like a FIFA Ultimate Team. You get
could you imagine doing that for AVL?
And you pull cards. But there's no matchup system in that to play your cards against each other.
Yeah.
You just get rated based on the rarity of the cards you've pulled. But it says it's coming soon.
Not gonna lie, like this is a big. I have not been a big FIFA guy. I just didn't grow up with it. My friends, we just didn't really play it growing up. We played other games like Dota. Yeah. Not that it's relevant, but volleyball will probably see a huge explosion in popularity once there is a FIFA-esque type Ultimate Team fantasy. Like, because Ultimate Team right now in FIFA is like it includes all the major leagues, all the major players. And you get extra points if there's what's it? I'm gonna get butchered if someone listens to this and I don't remember what it's called. Chemistry. You get extra chemistry if people are from the same league or the same club or the same nationality. So it's like you imagine adding all those things into like a fantasy league. You get like a little bit extra bonus points if you get like, stuff like
this
that.
Japanese app has like event cards, which are players in special
like roles.
They just look cooler. I don't know. They look cooler. They're attacking and it's 3-star rated instead of 2-star, but it's the same player. So it's just interesting to see that because I actually only found that through looking at their all-star voting system.
Last week we found it when we were recording.
That league has an all-star game and you can vote for that through this app.
Which we spoke about last week. Yeah.
So that's a bit of fun to find. And although I'm not the kind to spend money in it.
Get the credit card out.
Oh, mate.
That's a common saying in our household when we pull up FIFA. It's like, get the credit card out and pay for a pack.
But I'm like, I wonder if people have actually sunk money into it, those that are at the top of the league.
I reckon people would.
Because I'm just like, I'm happy just to open it and open a pack and close it.
If volleyball was, like if there was that in Australia for AVL, I'd probably do it. I'd sink $50 in. As long as I knew the money was going to the players.
Yeah, true.
I'd be like,
where it goes.
I'll pay for some ultimate packs and
get one digital card.
I'll pull out Darcy Cox as a legendary card for my Libero or something. I don't know.
Thinking be like Alex Bai, bench warmer.
No, I don't want
negative
Alex Bai.
1 star.
I don't want Alex Bai. I don't know about the Japanese rating because Namir was 1 star.
Yeah, Lopez was 1 star.
Ridiculous. They're like the two.
Mazurski's 1 star. Who else do I have?
Who was more
Luca Raleigh was 1 star. I got a Kudo, the pass hitter from Trinidad's team.
The Tridents.
From the Tridents. Yeah. Nagano Tridents. I got an event card for him that was 3 stars.
So
he's a pass hitter.
No, I know he's a pass hitter.
He's a good pass hitter, so I assume that's why he's getting that rating. Versus maybe they're just prioritizing their national talent. Their national talent, Yeah, but I assume maybe there's I pulled the 1 star Namir. Maybe there is a 4-star Namir out there.
Yeah, maybe it's like a genuine trading. Like, maybe it's like, you can get like the same.
Like a base card versus
like a different background or like an action shot and it's like a higher rarity card. Yeah, like maybe it's that. Maybe it's not really player based, but it's like card based.
Yeah. I mean, the translation's always funny. So I like opening it, saying you got rewarded for, and I'm like, I don't know what that says. Because it is just Google Chrome, it can still translate the app, even though you've downloaded the app, but it can't translate pop-ups.
So annoying. You need the Google Pixel.
No idea.
Like the Gemini just does it all for me on the screen.
Yeah.
Fantasy volleyball could be big.
Yeah, we'll be sharing lots. I think I'm trying to look at sort of player stats off the air and trying to see what players are doing, guys. Give us an edge. Maybe if you join the Discord, I'll share some things in there.
Oh, okay. Well, we're wrapping up though. Join the Discord because if you want to be involved with fantasy, that's where we'll do it from.
Yeah.
We've got a fantasy channel. If you want to play in the leagues, if you want to play in our private leagues, if you want to we're going to try and figure out the Lega Volley Femina, the Italian women's my pronunciation.
Serie A1.
Yeah. Well, you pronounced it right this time.
Yeah.
I can't talk at all. I'm just, whatever. Join the Discord because that's what we're running out of. And if people don't know how to play, but you're somewhat interested in volleyball, join because we're happy to explain it to you. And there's no money involved.
Or if you don't even know where it's linked, we'll be linking it and we'll be sending through stuff and it's free.
There's no money involved. So you just come and play a game that's to do with the sport you love and you just have fun. And I found it to be informative. That's why we said,
it made me watch a lot more of the lower teams that I haven't previously watched.
Yeah. It also fantasy volleyball is one of several reasons why we started the podcast. And it also helps me learn players and is like a little bit of an entryway into stats. Like we know way more stats now. Again, we spoke about it in our stats episode. No one's taught us stats. We should, not we, but like that should be something that is addressed in the wider volleyball community, is teaching about stats and stuff. But fantasy is a good way to just to learn and just to dip your toe in, have a bit of fun, talk a bit of smack to your friends about their picks and then lose.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's what our group chat was. We were saying, oh, we're matching up. I've got you covered. You suck. And then
lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the quietest person in the group chat came like first in Australia. I won't name names, but everyone knows.
I could have beat him. Could have won.
Well, you didn't.
I named someone that wasn't playing, my captain or something. I don't remember. I did some issue. Captains get double points.
Captains get double points. We haven't said that. That's a consistency that's in the...
which makes sense.
No, I don't like it. I think it's just pure team-based. 6-on-6. No double points. You imagine picking a captain in like state league and they get double points every time they get an ace?
Mate, that's what power plays were going to be. And I wish it was.
That's right.
Imagine if power plays were as what was initially presented to players, that it was a power player.
Yeah,
and your points are worth double. That would be so much better.
I remember we did a training and they were you had to like elect,
you had to nominate
player.
for the next 3. It's like, I am the power player, and it's like, all right, he's getting set 3 balls in a row.
Especially in a rally, you're getting set infinitely for the next 3 rallies.
Yeah, that'd be so fun. So that's what a captain is.
I hate that. I hate it. All right, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening and hanging around while we yap some fantasy here and there.
Yep.